In the shadows of London's East End, something was rising. Not a club, not a team, a force. Millwall Football Club, born in the docks, forged in steel, fed on hardship, and behind the badge, a name whispered in fear. The Bushwackers, a firm, a brotherhood, a battlefield in the terraces. But to understand them, you have to understand where they came from. In the 1970s, England was a nation on edge. Economic collapse, unemployment, social unrest. For thousands of young men, the football ground became their battleground. And at Millwall, something darker was brewing. They called themselves the Bushwackers, named after guerrilla fighters. They didn't wait for violence. They hunted it. We weren't there to watch football, mate. We were there for the buzz, for the fight. That's what it was. Every firm had its enemy. For Millwall, the fiercest blood ran through East London, West Ham United. It wasn't just banter. It was tribal, generational, and it got out of control. March 1977, Millwall traveled to Luton Town. What follows becomes one of the darkest nights in English football. There were pitch invasions, broken seats, and violent clashes outside the ground. Over 100 arrests were made. No CCTV, no mobile phones, just fists, bricks, and chaos. And the Bushwackers were front and center. 8 years later, they returned, a tidal wave of violence. This time, it spilled onto the pitch, into homes, into headlines. The entire country was watching. What we saw at Luton last night was not football, it was war. The media painted them as animals, savages in scarves. But for the Bushwackers, that reputation was power. We liked it, we fed off it. If they feared you, they didn't mess with you. To them, it wasn't criminal, it was a code, a brotherhood, a war without guns. The Bushwackers weren't mindless. They were organized, pre-planned meets, signal callers, scouts, a firm run like a street army. They didn't just support Millwall, they defended it, with blood and boots. No one likes us, no one likes us, no one likes us, we don't care. 4 lines, chanted across decades, a message to the world, and a warning. They weren't singing for approval. They were singing to remind you. You could hate them, fear them, isolate them, but they would never break. Millwall was more than a football club. It was survival. In a forgotten corner of London, where industry once roared and then died, football filled the vacuum. The Bushwackers emerged from that pride, but they added something else, defiance. To outsiders, it looked like madness, but inside the firm, there was purpose, hierarchy, loyalty. You didn't turn up and start swinging. You earned your place. You proved you weren't soft. For many, it was the only place they felt seen, respected, feared. It wasn't just a chant. It was an identity, a declaration of war on a world that judged them. They heard it all, the slurs, the smears, the headlines, and instead of apologizing, they roared back louder. No one likes us wasn't self-pity. It was armor. It was pride. To be a bushwhacker was to belong, to fight alongside brothers, to protect your turf. We weren't angels, far from it. But inside that chaos, it made sense. We had each other. It wasn't about the football anymore, it was about identity, us versus them. By the 1990s, the British government had declared war, not just on hooliganism, but on the idea of hooliganism. It wasn't just arrests anymore, a new kind of fight. The Bushwackers, once ghosts in the crowd, were now suspects on a screen. Football banning orders hit hard. Miss 1 match? No, miss 5 years of them. If you even looked like trouble, you were done. The terraces were no longer wild. They were policed like prisons, and the old firms, they began to fade. The violence slowed. The meetups became rarer. The codes buried. We didn't stop because we got soft. We stopped because we got watched. The Bushwackers, once kings of the underground, were forced into retreat. The firm they tried to erase became legend. The Bushwackers became pop culture anti-heroes. For a new generation, the Bushwackers weren't monsters. They were men who stood their ground, right or wrong. They meant something. Time moves on, terraces crumble, and even the hardest legends fade into silence. But behind every brick thrown, every chant roared, every scar worn like armor, there was something deeper. Today, Millwall is building something different, a club for families, a club for the future. But the past still lingers, not as shame, but as truth. Many paid the price, prison time, broken families, some never made it out. If I could go back, I'd tell myself to walk away. But back then, it was all we had. Was this just football violence, or was it a working-class scream, a way to matter in a world that never gave them the microphone? Hooliganism wasn't senseless. It was a language, a message from the ignored. You can paint over the walls, install cameras, rewrite the headlines, but the story remains because football is more than 90 minutes. It's history, it's pain, it's pride. No one likes us. We don't care.